Attention passionate Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the AFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Pittsburgh Steelers' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Pittsburgh Steelers fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your friends and Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Let's get to the news. Now, if you've been paying close attention to the NFL landscape, you know that the AFC North, one of the most competitive divisions in football, is always full of surprises. But this offseason, something really intriguing has unfolded, and it involves a player who's trying to carve his path in the league, a guy who's been making headlines and could, surprisingly, end up having his NFL future shaped by none other than the Pittsburgh Steelers themselves. That's right, we're talking about Shedeur Sanders, a name that's been buzzing around the league, not just because of his talent, but because of the potential storylines that could emerge from his journey. Shedeur Sanders, the former Colorado quarterback, a son of legendary coach Deion Sanders, has been a hot topic since he declared for the NFL draft. Falling to the 5th round, many analysts initially thought he'd be a long shot to make a splash in the league, but his story is far from over. Now he finds himself at a crossroads, fighting for a spot in Cleveland with the Browns, and the situation there is quite telling. Having just wrapped up the mandatory minicamp, Sanders is currently sitting as Cleveland's 4th-string quarterback heading into training camp, which is scheduled to kick off in late July. That's a tough spot for a guy with aspirations of leading an NFL team, especially for someone as ambitious as Sanders. The competition isn't exactly sparse. He's up against some seasoned veterans and experienced rookies, including Joe Flacco, who's returning to Cleveland after a stint with the Colts, and Kenny Pickett, who was the first-round pick by the Steelers just a couple of years ago. There's also Dillon Gabriel, a talented rookie drafted 2 rounds before Sanders, who's looking to carve out his own space in the league. It's a crowded field, but the interesting part is how this situation could end up benefiting Sanders in the long run. While it looks like Flacco has the edge for Cleveland's starting job, especially considering his NFL experience, including guiding the Ravens to a Super Bowl victory, there's a twist in this story that involves the Steelers and their backup quarterback situation. And this is where things get really fascinating for Steelers fans. Recently, the Steelers announced the signing of Aaron Rodgers, the 4-time NFL MVP who's set to be their starting quarterback for the 2025 season. Rodgers, of course, coming over from Green Bay and then briefly with the Jets, is a game-changer. His arrival instantly elevates the Steelers' offense and gives them a legitimate shot at contending again. But behind him, the options are far from ideal. Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, and rookie Will Howard are the only options to step in if Rodgers struggles or gets injured. And let's be honest, while Rudolph has been around for a few seasons, he's yet to truly establish himself as a reliable NFL starter. Skylar Thompson is relatively untested, and Will Howard is a 6th-round pick with limited experience. So naturally, speculation has begun to swirl about how the Steelers could bolster this position, especially if they want to keep their Super Bowl window open. That's where the rumors about a potential trade come into play. Heavy.com, a trusted source for NFL rumors, has suggested that the Steelers might consider trading a future 6th-round pick to Cleveland for Joe Flacco. Why Flacco? Because, as I mentioned earlier, Flacco is the only quarterback in Cleveland with real NFL experience running Kevin Stefanski's offense. His knowledge, leadership, and playoff experience could make him a valuable backup behind Rodgers. And with Flacco's veteran status and understanding of the game, he would be a perfect fit for Pittsburgh if they decide to shore up that backup spot. Now, think about this for a second. If the Steelers were to acquire Flacco, that would mean Shedeur Sanders might have a real shot at making Cleveland's 53-man roster, perhaps alongside Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel. It's a bit of a long shot, but with Flacco in the fold, the Browns might be more inclined to keep him as a veteran backup, especially considering his playoff experience and leadership qualities. And if that happens, Sanders would have a chance to develop further behind Flacco, learning from one of the league's most seasoned quarterbacks. This kind of scenario isn't just hypothetical, It's rooted in the strategic moves teams are making this offseason. Cleveland, after all, is in a bit of a tricky spot. They have a young, unproven quarterback in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and while they drafted Dylan Gabriel with high hopes, he's still a rookie with limited NFL experience. Sending Flacco away could create a need for a reliable backup, and that's where the Steelers might come into play. Because if the Steelers do land Flacco, it could also serve as a way to give Sanders a clear pathway to a roster spot in Cleveland, all while strengthening the Steelers' own depth chart. But let's not forget what Kevin Stefanski, Cleveland's head coach, recently said about Sanders during the minicamp. Stefanski, always mindful of development and effort, praised Sanders' work ethic and attitude. He mentioned that Sanders is a very hard worker, someone who shows up early, stays late, and continues to improve each day. That kind of dedication is exactly what NFL teams look for in a young quarterback trying to make a name for himself. Stefanski's comments aren't just lip service, they reflect the reality of how Sanders has been progressing in minicamp. And it's no secret that the Browns see potential in him, even if he's currently buried on the depth chart. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. The NFL landscape is always shifting, and this offseason has been no different. The Steelers, with the addition of Rodgers, have positioned themselves as serious contenders once again. But the backup quarterback position remains a question mark, and that's precisely why the potential move involving Flacco and Sanders is so intriguing. It's a chess game of sorts, where each team is trying to position itself for the upcoming season and beyond. For Steelers fans, this is exciting because it highlights the strategic thinking behind roster moves. It also reminds us that behind every big signing, there's a story of competition, development, and sometimes a little bit of luck. We've seen in the past how backup quarterbacks can become unexpectedly important, especially if the starter gets injured or struggles. Having a reliable veteran like Flacco in the mix could be a huge advantage, and if it means that Sanders gets a chance to grow and learn behind him, well, that's a win for everyone involved. And honestly, this all ties into the broader narrative of the Steelers' ongoing quest for another Super Bowl. With Rodgers leading the charge at quarterback, the team's offense is poised to be one of the most potent in the league. But depth and experience at backup quarterback are crucial in this league, and that's why all eyes are on how Pittsburgh manages this position in the coming weeks. Will they pull the trigger on a trade? Will they give Will Howard a real shot to prove himself? Or will they look elsewhere? These are questions that every Steelers fan should be asking right now, because the decisions made in this offseason could define the team's trajectory for years to come. Moreover, let's talk about the historical context for a moment. The Steelers have always been a franchise built on resilience, smart roster moves, and developing talent from within. They've seen quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger carry the team for nearly 2 decades, and now, with Rodgers in the fold, they're shifting to a new chapter. But the question of what happens behind him remains a critical piece of the puzzle. Pittsburgh's front office is known for being strategic, and if they see an opportunity to bolster their depth by acquiring Flacco or even making a move for Sanders in Cleveland, you can bet they're weighing their options carefully. On the flip side, Cleveland's perspective is just as interesting. They're in a bit of a quarterback quandary, trying to balance development and immediate competitiveness. Shedeur Sanders, despite his draft position and current ranking, has shown flashes of potential that make him worth developing. If Flacco leaves, it could open up space for Sanders to get valuable reps during training camp and the preseason, which could be pivotal for his growth. The Browns are in a win-now mentality, especially after making some significant moves this offseason, but they also recognize the importance of developing young talent. Sanders could be that dark horse, the sleeper pick that surprises everyone by making the roster and maybe even pushing for a starting role in a couple of years. But let's not forget about the bigger picture here. This isn't just a story about 2 quarterbacks or 2 teams. It's a reflection of how NFL franchises are constantly adjusting, looking for that edge, that strategic move that can make all the difference. For Steelers fans, it's a reminder that while the team's primary focus is on their championship ambitions, the backup quarterback situation remains a key component of their overall success. And for Cleveland, it's about trying to balance the pipeline of talent while still remaining competitive in a division that's as tough as ever. Now, circling back to the Steelers, the addition of Rodgers has definitely shifted the landscape. It's a bold statement that Pittsburgh is all in for another deep playoff run, but it also raises questions about how they'll handle the backup situation. Will they be patient with Mason Rudolph, who's been around for a few seasons but still hasn't fully proven himself? Or will they make a bold move to acquire someone like Flacco, who can provide stability and leadership if needed? And how does all of this impact the development of younger players like Will Howard or even the newly signed free agents? These are the discussions that are happening behind closed doors right now, and they're critical for the team's success. Considering the history of the franchise, the Steelers have always been about smart, strategic decisions. They've built their reputation on finding value in overlooked players, developing talent, and making shrewd moves in free agency and trades. This offseason is no different. The possibility of acquiring Flacco, for example, fits perfectly within that mold. It's a low-cost, high-reward move that could pay dividends if Rodgers were to get injured or struggle at some point. It's the kind of move that keeps the Steelers competitive and ready for any scenario. And let's be honest, the NFL is unpredictable. We've seen quarterbacks rise from relative obscurity to become stars overnight, and we've also seen highly touted prospects fail to live up to expectations. That's why depth at the position is so vital. The Steelers, with their rich history of developing quarterbacks and winning championships, know this all too well. They understand that having a reliable backup isn't just about filling a roster spot. It's about having peace of mind and the flexibility to adapt as the season unfolds. As for the Steelers fans, this news about Flacco, Sanders, and the potential trade talks should stir excitement. It's a reminder that teams are always looking to improve, and that even in the quieter moments of the offseason, there are strategic battles being fought behind the scenes. It's also a testament to the importance of patience and trust in the front office to make the right calls. The Steelers have a proud legacy of building winning teams, and what happens in this offseason could very well set the stage for their next Super Bowl appearance. In conclusion, this story isn't just about a quarterback or a trade rumor. It's about the bigger picture, team building, strategic moves, and the relentless pursuit of excellence that defines the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's about the hope, the anticipation, and the thrill of what's to come. Whether Sanders makes his way to Cleveland or stays in college or university for a little longer, or whether the Steelers make a bold move to secure their backup quarterback of the future, one thing is certain: the NFL offseason is never dull, especially when the Steelers are involved. So, keep your eyes peeled, because the next few weeks could bring some surprises that will shape the AFC North and ultimately the league itself. And as always, Steelers Nation, stay passionate, stay engaged, and stay tuned for more updates. Because when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the best is yet to come. And now, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Pittsburgh Steelers news.